water leak, which was a major leak, and they said, is it, where does it go between 5 and 10, or from 1 and 10? And he said, well, I don't really know, like, you know, is 1 bad, is 10 bad? And he said, oh, well, probably a 5. So it's 3 days later before anyone, and he rang back a couple more times before he actually got somebody to come. So I'm just wondering, has that been looked at, or has anybody, you know, rung that number on weekends, or just see what response you get?
Through you, Madam Chair, I might ask the General Manager of Customer and Commercial Services to respond.
Thank you. Through the Chair, I do believe that the Coordinator of Customer Service does contact the after hours number periodically, but obviously we could do more. It's an area that does need to be looked at, and certainly where we can have specifics of those sorts of incidents, we can then go to the cause of the problem. It's not necessarily always the service provider that's the issue. Sometimes it's actually the council officers as well. So happy to provide those, get those details from you, Councillor Nixon, and absolutely we will share that information with our customer service area for a conversation with the big services, the provider of the after hours service, in regards to some of those issues that we're finding.
So this doesn't really, it relates more to the CRM system, doesn't it? Not the complaint system.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think the response to the question certainly was about managing the customer requests, but the extension is customer requests often turn into complaints thereafter. So understanding the question, trying to deal with things at the first point of referral is always our goal, Councillor Brindlecombe, but yeah, we'll take on board the work that we need to do in making sure that the customer requests and the complaints are much more joined up across the organisation, and there's been good consultation in developing these processes with, as the General Manager said, the Coordinator of Customer Services.
I'm certainly happy to receive any details you have in regards to any concerns in regards to an after hours call or a CRM, because it helps us to then dig down into the details of the issue to actually find the cause of the problem, so then we can improve it and make a change.
Following on that, do you have a set script that they follow to ask questions to find all the information out?
The after hours service certainly does have a set script, Councillor Brindlecombe. We certainly do have documentation for customer service officers, and in the recent week what I've approved is a concept proposal in regards to some software, which is knowledge management software, to assist us with the script for customer service. So that will be go through the process of our ICT steering committee. So certainly our business improvement officer has formulated the concept. There needs to be a business case that goes with that. There is no budget at this point in time, but if the business case stacks up in regards to bringing on that software, it's won't just be useful for customer service scripting, there are other benefits within the organisation as well, and we certainly are looking at that and progressing them.
Through the Chair, I just have one other comment. I just don't want to have complaints. We couldn't have concerns instead of complaints. Most people, it's a concern, not a complaint. I just,
yeah, there are some
distinctions
between a complaint and a request for service, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, I take the point, Councillor Nixon. You know, a lot of what's referred to through the legislation uses that terminology complaint, but as we continue to develop these policies and procedures, we'll certainly look to change the language so it's more representative of what we're trying to address.
It's a nicer word to use, isn't it? Concern rather than a complaint.
Yes, so actually, Jason, on page 44, so there is the question, what is a complaint and what is a request for service? So, you know, I think as we develop those policies, it will become more.
So these are all new policies, Chair. These are not upgrades of existing policies.
Through you, Madam Chair, they are upgrades to existing frameworks, Councillor Bell.
I just wonder, I'd just like to know what we've changed, that's all sometimes. Is there a chance we can get something in italics or something, as well says, this is the old one, this is what we've done now, and I don't understand why or what we've done.
Yeah, we can do that into the future. We certainly do that as we track through the development of it as well. So I'm happy to provide those in the development going forward.
Yeah.
I know that the administrative action complaints, page 49, that procedure will, I presume, will have changes quite regularly over the next little while because of the, through the Belcara.
Okay.
So they have to be updated as that sort of thing comes in, I suppose.
This is preliminary tidy up, I suppose, in advance of what else might come forward with Belcara recommendations.
Any more on those? So move to, got a recommendation, I keep forgetting them, sorry. So the recommendation is?
Page 37, 3 parts.
3 parts of recommendation. Council adopt the general complaints management policy and rescind its current administration's actions complaints policy, CHRC 001, adopted 26th January 16. Further, CHRC adopt the general complaints management procedure and administrative actions complaints procedure, and further that CHRC advise the Office of the Queensland Ombudsman of the adoption of the policy and procedures. We have somebody move that they be.
So just comment there, like, if it's going to change, do we send it down to the Ombudsman's office now, or do we wait for a while? And also, like Councillor Ballon has asked for the highlights to be notified back. I just wonder, are we jumping the gun and it's got not to be reviewed no more than 4 years? I think we should shorten up the time for review.
In response to that, through you, Madam Chair, we certainly can shorten up the time to review, Councillor Nixon. The comment I go back to Councillor Bell was about, and as we develop these going forward, because as you can see from the recommendation, we've taken one policy and we've broken it up into one policy and 2 procedures that fall out of that. So happy to set a shorter time frame on that and maybe review in the early part of 2019 as part of what comes through the changes in the Belcara legislation that are due to be effective through December 2018 onwards.
Thank you.
So are we going to advise the Ombudsman now?
Yeah, because that's been followed up by them, so it's about tidying up their request as well.
That's fine. Can somebody move with those? Councillor Brimblecombe, seconder. Councillor Sypher, all those in favour? Thank you, everybody. So now we'll move on to 10.2. Enterprise risk
I
management.
can ask our government officers to come down and perhaps be available to talk to questions on this. Councillors, this is the second part of what was introduced at the last round of this committee meeting, where the risk management framework was adopted by Council. This report seeks to have the guideline and policy that support that framework adopted. In concert with that, the work has been done throughout the last 6 months or so on redefining our risk management approach across the organisation into, I suppose, a more simplified and realistic approach for us as an organisation. So happy to take the report as read to answer any questions the councillors might have, either through myself or the government's officer.
No questions?
Very dignified there. Hang on.
Right, that's it. You want to make any comments?
Just through you, Madam Chair, I just asked the officer, is there anything else to highlight to the councillors? We've talked through this a number of times.
Yes, it was discussed on the 11th of September. The minor changes in the policy in that it was due for its annual review in line with the review of the framework. One of the main changes to the policy compared to the previous version is that it now includes more detail on the risk appetite statement and has streamlined the definition. So very minor change was required to just bring that a bit up to date and more in line. Again, it ties back into the enterprise risk management framework that was adopted on the 11th of September by this committee, and will be used then to develop all future risk assessment and registry going forward.
So that's a continuous procedure that working quite well.
Chair, Productivity is a company that actually, former audit committee independent director Jeff Hurst is, I guess to say, is his commercial activity.
Yeah, correct.
So he's obviously his approach is very much around, I guess you'd say, the audit background that he has.
Yeah, and Jeff himself worked on, at the end of last year, on reviewing the policy, creating a guideline specifically to make it a bit more clear and visual, knowing the history of CHRC and trying to simplify that process to start the embedding of risk management.
So, you know, I have a quick question. Earlier on today, we had a risk management framework come through done by somebody else in finance and infrastructure meeting. So, to me, it'd be advisable to have the whole of council follow one framework. Is that so? Each entity within our council come under the one umbrella. Is that?
I might start the answer on that, Madam Chair. What we saw produced at Finance and Infrastructure was a framework that infrastructure has seen, particularly around managing their risks. What we'll do is we'll make sure we sit down and look at the elements of that may not be covered in our current framework, and just make sure that there is an alignment if we seek to do something that's a little bit outside of what's currently being agreed as a more corporate approach to the organisation, and have the officer follow that up.
Thank you. There's no more. So the recommendation there is that the council adopt the updated enterprise risk management policy and guideline as presented. The remover of that, please. Thanks, Councillor Grimble. Second, Councillor Cypher. Those in favour of that? Thank you. So 10.3, person is turned on technology 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, this report serves to provide a further level of detail around the deferral of the go live date for the Technology 1 implementation of the One Council solution. This report was discussed, or a version of it at length during the last audit committee 2 Fridays back, highlighting a number of the influences that have led to the deferral of the project, and also a number of the proposed solutions that have been identified, to improve the project governance, but also to improve the structure of dealing with the complexity associated with this installation of this technology. There have certainly been a number of lessons learned in what's been quite a challenging and changing space associated with the technology and its implementation. There have been influences both inside council and its activities, as well as with the provider Technology 1. What's important is we have identified a way forward in terms of tightening up that project control, making sure that we have clearer expectations around how the applications will be rolled out into the organisation, and creating a timeline that allows much more time for the staff training, testing, and then the overall implementation of the product going forward. Rather than go through the level of detail, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions that might be coming forward from the councillors, acknowledging that a couple of other actions were added from the Audit and Risk Management Committee in terms of further engagements and seeking some resolution to some of the other matters. I'm happy to take questions, councillors.
Questions on it?
So you're pretty satisfied that the solution's been put forward, Jason, and to take out all the complications we've seen before?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Definitely satisfied that it's the best solution for our organisation as a total solution. The lessons learned so far, Councillor Bell, have really been, there's a lot of moving parts in doing an installation of everything all at the same time. So we don't really have an opportunity where we sit to turn on components of the modules easily. We really have to turn everything on all at the same time. And we've learnt a range of lessons on the way through, and I suppose established mitigations around that now. But also, we are fortunate that we've been able to keep pace with the technology as it changes as well, and it's saving rework into the future. So completing the installation on a really recent version will allow us to be as up to date as we can be, rather than having to sort of play catch up even after day one. So as it sits now, we're comfortable that we can complete the installation on the basis of the current version and the basis of the current processes that we have in place, and tightening up the governance structure and having some harder conversations more often will certainly keep that discipline meeting the go live date in the first half of 2019.
Just through the chair there on page 73, the original cost has been revised. I guess it's been revised up, not down, or?
Still finalising what those complex cost impacts will be. Council Nixon, that'll be the subject of a further report back to Council. I have a number of variations and additions that we need to make in terms of enhancing particularly the training aspects for the staff in our organisation. So we have indicative costs at this point in time, but I'll bring that back in advance of the next budget review. Nothing will impede our ability to keep working through the project as soon as I have those finalised, which will be in a report back to Council, before the end of the calendar year.
And Chair, just to Jason again, we talked about budgeting and finance, an extra 600,000 might be added to implementation costs. But so we need to probably have a look at the final cost of it tonight.
Yeah.
The other thing is about there was some, I think, intended efficiencies to be created. And just if we are seeing those being able to be met and gained, it's a significant investment, $7 million in the IT process. And I think we want to make sure that we do get the maximum benefits and efficiency out of the new package. I hope people see if they are measurable and what they might look like as well at the same time.
Through you, Madam Chair, we are aware of Councillor Bell, and we're trying to keep an eye on particularly changes in processes that are bringing much more efficiency to the way in which we do things. That'll be in both cost, time, value of wages and other changes in processes across the organisation.
Certainly, Jason, but with receiving the updated software and version has put a level, I suppose, of employees having to catch up on what in a learning process as well. They're still learning about it, so having to catch up on that learning as they go has probably held us back a little bit because we weren't given the indication that we were going to receive these new upgrades to the software as well. So but that's a discussion to have with the vendor. Yeah. There's any further comment or questions? It's a recommendation there that the council receive this information report as an update on the project status for the end of September 18th. Something that please receive that. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Second, Councillor Duncan. Those in favour? Thank you very much. We move on to the bi-monthly workforce statistics report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask the Manager of Human Resources to come down to help with the questioning. With all this report forward, councillors, it had been previously discussed in closed forum and in view of the transparency across the organisation, that there's non-information in here that isn't available through the public realm. So that's the first opportunity for us to do that in terms of improving the understanding and the transparency of reporting. I'll just ask the manager to talk through some of the highlights and then we'll come back to questions. Thanks, Tanya.
Firstly, you'll notice just in the age demographics and the generational breakdown, I've added in the Gen Z age category there, just to break that down a little bit further, so we can keep data on that and look at our, we've talked about it previously around training and learning of those people in the different generations. We've added that into the report. So I guess a lot of the data isn't changing a lot at this stage. We've got our age and years of service, our indicators that we're using to look at the succession planning framework, which feeds into the people plan that we're preparing. Work has commenced on that people planning framework, so it's also a part of our recruitment and retention strategy that we're looking at. So the data that we're collecting and producing in these reports is being used further, not just to show numbers. I guess we are using it for a lot of our planning going forward. The numbers by area, just information that we are going through a big recruitment phase at the moment, and in consultation with the CEO, we're looking at a lot of those vacancies and where they can be placed across the region, so they won't just be all automatically put into the Emerald office. We're looking at where best fit for office staff. I guess it's probably more than outside staff. They have their careers in each area. So that is being looked at as we roll out our recruitment. We have got, the recruitment is being scheduled out. It's not going to be all thrown out together. So we do have a lot of vacancies. At the moment, I think we have about 40 positions open, going through the process. Each fortnight, we're probably advertising another 10 roles. We are struggling to recruit a little bit. We are coming up against the mining boom again. And also our trades positions where are probably the hardest role to fill at the moment is the plumbing roles. We've been out 10 times so far. And we've interviewed, we've got through those processes, and then they've pulled out at the last minute, saying that we're not competitive, I guess, enough at this point with the private sector. So we need to have a look at that. I've spoken with the manager of Water Utilities, and he's going to do a review on what we pay and how that looks, how best we can try and, I guess, recruit trade positions into council. I'm not sure why we're struggling, because we never have before, but at this point we are. So our exit survey data there, we haven't had a lot come in since the last time we spoke. However, we're still looking at the our relationships is sort of a highlight for improvement that we're working on. The system, I've spoken about that we're looking into different systems to see how best we can try and collect that data electronically rather than the manual process. We have had, I know we've had five face-to-face exit interviews since the last report, and that was some great information and feedback that we got from some senior positions too. That was good feedback that we've worked with. I think that's about all I had. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to.
The only other point to add, councillors, on the bottom of page 83, I made reference to it yesterday for those councillors in the briefing forum that we have only recently received the results of our staff survey. That information is only relatively fresh, and we'll bring back in more detail report on implementing actions on how we address some of the issues raised through that. There's a lot of work in that, in the analysis of the data for us to work through at this point in time.
Any other questions? Or? So there's a recommendation there that the council received the bi-monthly workforce statistics report. It's the 28th of September 18. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Cypher. All those in favour? Thank you. Thanks, Tony, for that. We'll move right along.
So the next report, councillors, 10.5, is really information report regarding our employee assistance program, trying to outline that it's moved beyond perhaps what was the traditional support in counselling services to a much more holistic service about care and wellbeing holistically of the employees across the organisation. I might just ask the manager to touch on a couple of those aspects, and certainly that wheel on the wheel diagram on page 85 gives you a sense of that more holistic approach. Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, so there's a couple of new streams that they've put into our program. We've always had manager assist, career assist, employee assist, legal assist, family assist and money assist. So the new ones that they've put in is the conflict assist and nutrition and lifestyle assist. So all of those cogs, I guess, on the wheel are available to all of our employees to access. We did get some statistics come back not long ago from our provider, and we don't have a huge uptake on our EAP, so we are at the moment we're starting to pull together a bit of a where to from here on what it is that and how we're going to promote the services they provide, because we have a little bit of a stigma, I guess, that it's a counselling service across council, so we need to change that and promote it as a benefit to employees, and that's an assistance rather than a counselling service. We've just included in our services a new EAP Plus service, which is another way for managers or HR to actually refer employees to the program. So previously we couldn't do that without the employee's approval, but there is so we can now do that. Obviously there's still the need to communicate with the employees to not breach any privacy. However, we can do that in the report. There is a number of different things there that we can refer under. So around drug and alcohol, wellness checks, fitness for duties assessments, workplace behaviour coaching and extended counselling and risk support. So that's a great service, and it's also going to help us with our employee management, I guess, the performance management, things like that, because the services they provide have professionals that can give us advice. So Sandy Schofield, Manager of Safety, and I have spoken. We are going to develop a 5-year plan on a strategic health and wellness program across council, which will encompass a lot of things, including, I guess, mental fitness, critical incident, rapid responses, psychological safety, a lot of different things that our employees, I think, once they have the training, they'll understand and be able to relate that back to their own personal life as well as work life. So something that we spoke briefly about last week, so just at the end I put a where to from here in the report, that Sandy and I are going to work together on that and see how we can link it back into the HR people strategy and also to the SWAT team, so that there's a linkage between safety and HR in that process. I think that's about it. If anyone's got any questions on that?
Just a comment on that, Tanya, in your summary about it being confidential and professional support service, completely independent. I think that's really important, because people just don't, employees anywhere don't want to be, don't want to know about it, or everybody else know about it. And that's so I think that's something that.
And we do promote that a lot, but we still have those people that are a little bit not quite sure and sceptical about that. But if we can promote all of the services that they provide, and not just that it's a counselling service. I think we might get a little bit better uptake, and then people might be sceptical about the service.
So is this promoted to managers or promoted to all staff?
All staff.
All staff directly?
Yes. There is a manager assistant.
They've got to go through, then to get access to things, they go through their team leader or manager?
No, they directly access it. It doesn't have to go through council at all.
Doesn't it?
No, there's
They
no.
go straight to this organisation?
They directly contact them, yes. They have 3 sessions, but that now can be extended, and that can also be extended through the EAP Plus program, where if they're referred, we can say, look, we're open to 10 sessions if it's, depending on the case. We don't know unless we refer them, I guess, and unless someone comes to us, we don't get any data at all on what employees are accessing it. All the data we get is general overview of the uptake, I guess, of the system. The manager assist section that's in there, we're actually encouraging our managers to use that, just to see what it's like and to be able to bounce things off and share with each other. So that is going to be a compulsory session for the first time around for the managers. I'm organising that at the moment, and then it's up to them whether they want to uptake any further sessions from that. So that'll be a good way for the managers to be able to use the program and be able to promote the services of Converge to employees as well.
Further comments, questions? So, just the recommendation there is the council receive the Employee Assistance Program Initiatives Update Report. So we'll move that, please. From McCone, seconder. Councillor Wilson. Those in favour? Thank you. School-based apprenticeships / work experience tender.
So through you, Madam Chair, in response, I think, to a question last month from Councillor Daniels, we put together a bit more of a comprehensive understanding of what our current position is, and I'll ask the Manager HR just to go through the work that we're currently doing and planning for the future.
So we have a Growing Our Own program that's run through, we have a dedicated resource in the training team that coordinates the Growing Our Own program, which includes everything from work experience, trainees and apprentices, co-op students, school-based apprentices coming back in next year. So obviously that program is being really well received across council. We're upskilling our current employees as well through that Growing Our Own. I guess the reason for the report, the school-based trainees, we're going to trial it again next year. So we used to have it a few years back, and we stopped doing it because we didn't have the right supervisory experience, I guess, across council to supervise the students. We have to have a 1:1 ratio, so we've got to make sure that we have the right people supervising and teaching these students and making sure that they're learning on the job. So we'll go through the same process that we do with our trainees and apprentices. We'll send out across council to all the managers and executive expressions of interest for what areas can take on school-based trainees and apprentices. Because obviously the people that are supervising them have to have a direct connection to the qualification that student is undertaking. Once all those expressions of interest come through, then we'll take it to the executive leadership team to make a decision on where we feel is best based for those students. Obviously, we want to try and get them spread out across the region, possibly 4 to start next year. We won't be able to take any in our workshops because we're at capacity with our supervision in the workshops for next year. Once some of our apprentices finish next year, we'll be able to bring new school-based or full-time apprentices back into the workshops. I've gone through in that report and noted, our readiness as an employer to make sure that we have the appropriate supervision, adequate resources and equipment for these students. we've gained a lot of knowledge from the departments at MRAL is who we use at the moment on all of the restrictions and requirements for skill-based apprentices. So we think we will be fine, we'll be covered, no problem to bring people on board. And I think just at the end, I've just put a little visual into that report on the pathways, our career pathways for council and how we're bringing people in and educating people on what we have, what career pathways we have at council. We have supplied the secondary schools with booklets on all of the different careers across council, with a bit of a highlight on each one and what it entails. We'll develop that further, but it was a good starting point. We've copied a whole bunch and sent them to the schools, and they were using those as a resource for the students to have a look at things for work experience as well as for the trainees and apprentices. So that's been a really good initiative.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. Questions?
Yeah, just to the chair, you say putting on 4,
We think so, yeah.
sorry?
Yeah, we think that 4 is going to be our number, maybe 1 in each area, if we can get the supervision.
Just mainly office and the admin, or don't really know yet?
No, not until we get the expressions of interest back.
And just going back to the previous report, we've got 1.65% apprentices and trainees 2.12%. I'm just wondering, like, this is covering school-based trainees and apprentices. So are we looking to up the ante on the apprentices?
We can't because we don't have the supervision at the moment. So we've got to have the full-time staff 1-to-1 ratio for our apprentices in the workshops. And so at the moment, I think we have 1 apprentice in each workshop and 3 in Emerald. So at this stage, they're at capacity with the qualified staff.
And I just noticed that there's nothing in the water area of plumbers, and that seems to be one department that we are always short of.
So with the water department, we've actually got a qualification running now through the CQU. And so we're upskilling our internal employees. We have offered an internal apprenticeship. So we have got 1 apprentice in water at the moment, an apprentice plumber. And off the top of my head, I can't tell you how many we've got running through that certificate through the CQU, but we're upskilling all of our staff through that partnership that we have with the CQU. So plumbing apprentices are probably harder across council because we're struggling to recruit plumbers. So once we can get the qualified plumbers in place, then we'll be able to look at.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
Yeah,
Haven't got the numbers to make the numbers grow.
that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just something that there's always been a problem for the last few years. So it's just, yeah, it's not getting any better, obviously.
With the plumbing apprentices, we also have to outsource some of the a part of the qualification. So we have to also partner with external and the mechanics as well. So we have to partner with external businesses as well. So there's a lot behind the scenes that goes on with those, and the plumbing ones is probably harder because we are competing in a very small pool of qualified people there.
Thank you.
It is good to see that it's in process again,
Yeah.
because we need the localised, retain the local people if we can.
Just in closing that out, Madam Chair, this is really consistent with the commitments we've given through our certified agreement about the learning and development opportunities and growing the capability of the organisation. So we do see and take seriously that ability to grow apprentices, trainees and others, straight from school into the workforce, or people that are new to the workforce on a permanent basis. So it will continue to be something that we want to grow in terms of building the organisation's capability in the longer term, and again retaining people in local communities, which is always a challenge.
And tradespeople rather than hooking them off to universities though. Yeah. So the recommendation there that council receive the information report on school-based trainee and apprentices and work experience. Something with that, please. Rebecca Kine, seconder.
Belly second. Belly's been putting his finger up all the time, hasn't he? So.
Thank you, Ken. Sorry, 10.7.
Next one is me, Madam Chair. Councillors, I was afforded the opportunity to attend the Australian Human Resources Institute National Convention at the end of August, and apologies for the late report. The program really was very content rich. There was a lot to be learned about people management and practices that we can apply into our organisation. And I have taken the opportunity to gather resources from that activity and bring back to the organisation in terms of toolkits, additional books, reading and materials that we can use to enhance the development of our people plan that the manager of HR referenced before. Rather than give you a full diatribe of information there, I've included some mind map sketches and key issues associated with the aspects that came up through the major program delivery areas. One of the things that continues, I suppose, to highlight the need to be refreshed in managing the people in the organisation is what appears to be much more of a growing professionalisation around the human resources field, much the same as we might have seen from my own technical background in the accounting area. There's certainly a growing focus now on the specialisations around managing people and those particular skill sets in the organisation. It also, I suppose, provides that platform around what we know are challenges in developing our culture through the organisation. There's certainly a range of papers there on culture, but also aspects that we had exposure to earlier in the year around the future of work, what it looks like and how we might better prepare for it as an organisation. Not only in the sense of the growing impact and the changes in technology, but what we might expect future workplaces to look like and how people interact, along with understanding the rewards and recognition framework. We know are key aspects that are front of mind for our organisation. So happy to take any questions, councillors, and I thank the council for the opportunity to attend that, and we'll certainly seek to have attendance by the manager of HR to that forum in future years to keep up to date with the current changes. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any comments about that? The mind maps are extraordinary.
The mind maps, did you do them all yourself?
Oh, no, not all my own work.
Very, very comprehensive. Thanks, Tracy. There's no questions or comments about it. We'll Council received the information report on the Australian Human Resources Institute National Convention and Exhibition attended in Melbourne in August. Can you move that, please? No. Councillor Brillco. Second. You're not going to.
We're leaving it to Councillor Bell.
Somebody second it, please. Councillor Bell. Those in favour of that report, thank you very much. Move on to the CEO's report, 11.1.
In the absence of the CEO, Madam Chair, I'll push that report forward. Councillors, the report highlights a number of changes to officer networks that we're represented at and have been so predominantly through the CEO for a period of time. I think a significant note is the first dot point there around the confirmation of our Chief Executive Officer as the Chair of the Queensland Great Artesian Basin Advisory Council. It's obviously an honour that the Council would respect in terms of his contribution to that group over a period of years. Also changes to attendance at some of those other networks to be noted. Happy to answer questions, Madam Chair.
Jason, I would like to ask the Mayor if he would consider sending a note of congratulations to the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, if we could note that, please.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions about it? So, somebody move that we receive the report, please. No, you didn't want to receive the report. Councillor Bruncar moved that somebody seconded, please. Gosh, it's like pulling teeth today, Councillor Nixon. All those in favour of that report? Thank you. Departmental updates, Jason.
Onto departmental updates. Madam Chair, so item 12.1 again, report from the Chief Executive Officer in relation to the CQ Rock and its activities. The minutes of the meetings in July are attached there, as are notes from that most recent meeting. Happy to take the report as read, and if the man has other things that he might want to add if he was in attendance at that discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I think probably, well, apart from obviously the Sunwater PowerPoint presentation that actually is attached to the as an attachment, it would seem that having the Gladstone Area Water Board do all the preliminary work around the Woodford Weir, certainly the state has made a decision in respect of that ongoing work there, which now sits with Sunwater, and it would seem that there seems to be an urgency around progressing that. So I recommend to everyone there, obviously, that PowerPoint presentation attached is a very comprehensive and probably manifestly the first real look at what it looks like and where it's going to be. I think Rockhampton Regional Council, by fact of being in the room for this discussion, have been, I guess, the relevant local government authority that will do some of the works around access to that site. But certainly there's I suppose the inference and importance for Central Highlands is that it would seem that there is quite a substantive structure on the Apis Creek Road, on the basis of the configuration of the Rookwood Weir would now mean that there would be perhaps a more significant upstream impact on that road. So I guess approximately 16 to 20 kilometres north of Duringa, that particular crossing there is going to be quite a substantial crossing, and there'll be some impacts around probably sealing, at least from where the current seal ends now to the road reserve, just on the southern side of the Mackenzie River at that point. So that was pretty important. And in terms of the CQ Rock, I mean, by rotation, the member councils rotate the chair each year. Central Highlands have done an extra year, I guess you'd say, on that at the behest of Gladstone Regional Council. Matt Burnett is the area of Division 6 LGAQ policy representative, and he asked us to obviously accommodate him by holding the chair for his year of representation. But by rotation, it goes to Livingston this year. And I did report this morning in Infrastructure Standing Committee that the ROC has agreed now to go ahead with I guess it's a regional infrastructure and road planning, I suppose, initiative that is probably a missing gap in the state network around a regional planning document. There are other documents that have been created in the past, but this is fundamentally about, I suppose, the broader Central Queensland region, and even extending into Western Queensland to provide, I suppose, a supply chain influenced, I suppose, document, recognising the significant port assets, road infrastructure, resources, activity and employment opportunities that exist on our inland network, and comments made by various departments about the lack of, I suppose you'd say, that cohesive planning about how that all marries up. So the ROC agreed to do that, but they haven't actually settled on just how they might deliver that, and certainly the scope of that is the next round of discussion. I think there's a working group that will come out of that. And obviously on that day, QRA presented had quite a unique, I suppose you'd say, piece of collateral there. They physically taped down a copy of the whole Central Queensland region or had it printed on a piece of, what would you say, it's a cloth or linen that was actually, there was 12 metres by 6 metres, whatever it was, probably in there somewhere. And it was actually taped to the floor, so it was effectively, people were then asked to take their shoes off, and then about between 20 and 30 people obviously walked all over that map, which was modelled on a 1 in 100 year flood event over the whole of the region, just showing the flood, I suppose, position through central Queensland. So QRA are obviously embarking now on a pilot program, and have started that engagement with stakeholders. I've actually spoken with the District Disaster Coordinator in Rockhampton, Cameron Farwick, about this process, and there is some reference to, I guess, the North Burnett document that's actually attached here. Ours will, or the Central Queensland one will be different. Certainly, it was initiated around the early warning flood network, so it comprehensively follows that, but obviously takes into account a number of factors, social and otherwise, around this pilot program. So, yeah, quite a lot of information. So much, in fact, that obviously with visitations from politicians and ministers, that meeting was unable to be finished in the time allotted on that day, and actually was only completed last Friday, I think, or last Thursday at Livingston. So that was sort of round 2 of that discussion. So I think that's just about covered pretty much anything else that was in there. I think that's where you, Madam Chair.
I'll just draw your attention to the flood on the bridge, Volleyball Bridge. Was there any discussion around the artist's impression of what would be a Volleyball Bridge?
Well, Madam Chair, all I can say is that it frightened most people that were present in its scale and magnificence, and I guess probably on the basis that our road network certainly would not measure up to the majesty of that bridge, but that is in fact what has been, I guess you'd say, somewhat allowed for in this study. So I guess like all things in the practical delivery of this, you know, maybe there'll be some adjustments for that, but that is quite substantive.
It is standard bridge.
Maybe the artist's impression has got carried away with himself.
Could be.
We hope.
Most people there were quite impressed with the water quality. We're looking forward to that. But yeah, certainly it's a very, very large bridge. And the width of it's quite substantial, so notwithstanding the height might be a little overestimated. It's certainly the width, and I mean the current construction, and to get to a configuration that size, I think if you have a look, there was a map there, there's going to be a change to the approaches. And that's some discussion that's going to be had about how the subsequent sealing and changes to that access will happen.
There'll certainly be discussion about how much water, if that is the design of the bridge, I must expect a large volume of water to be
Just about pushed back to the Fairbairn Dam, I
imagine. Any more discussion on that very comprehensive report? Questions? Any up to that? We receive the recommendation there that the council receive the office of the chief executive officer's departmental update report highlighting key activities for the month of September. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Sypher, seconder. Councillor Brennan-Cone, those in favour? Thank you. So, Jason, general business? Do you have any general business? Before we move into closed session. Move Councillor Brennan-Cone, Councillor Nixon, that we move into closed session. Will you take, please? Thank you. sign off the door, please.
On the other door.
On the other door of the back. Good to go.
So welcome back to our live streams. We're on board. So we have resolutions. I was revoluting then. So the resolutions around the council received the Customer and Commercial Services Departmental Update Report, highlighting key activities for the month of September. Those Councillor Nixon and Councillor Sypher. All those in favour, thank you. Next one is the council received the information report on the 17-18 expenditure of external consultants. Move Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded Councillor Bell. Those in favour, carried, thank you. And the third one is second one. Council received the information report on the Todd Robertson Employment Relations Conference 2018, moved by Councillor Sypher, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe, those in favour. Thank you, and with that, we will close our meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. We are over time.